Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I deserve an apology because I cannot believe you guys put me through this. This is one of our most requested videos and I'm not sure what I did to demand this torture, but I have put an end to it and we are finally breaking down Aliens vs Predator Requiem. So yes, I've watched it, well listened to it, because the movie's darker than the Night of the Long Night. It's so dark! Feeling like a big departure from the rest of the series, it's almost like a teen slasher flick mixed with Resident Evil Apocalypse. Though I don't think this is the worst Predator movie, which yeah, it's definitely the Predator, it 100% marks a low point for both franchises. Feels like that bit in The Simpsons when Marge says that Homer's ruined his jacket and he corrects her by saying, "I've actually ruined two." Yes, both franchises are destroyed. With the first film making $150 million though, it seemed like a sequel was inevitable. Though Paul W.S. Anderson didn't return, the studio still pushed ahead anyway. Now this is a series that's had directors like Ridley Scott, James Cameron, John McTiernan, people who've made some of the best films of all time. So naturally, they wanted to hand the sequel off to some very steady hands. So they went to first-time directors and special effects experts, the brothers Strauss. To be fair though, they did direct the Linkin Park crawling video, so I will let them off. Although it seems like you'd want to avoid this movie like Screen Crush, there are actually a lot of people interested in the project. Tom Woodruff and Alec Gillis had hoped to direct this installment, and they were already connected to the franchise. They worked on Alien 3 and Resurrection, along with the first Aliens vs Predator. They even previously worked for Stan Winston Studios, which helped to design the original Yautja. They were denied that, but did end up doing the VFX and suits for the movie in the end. So yeah, I'm sure they're very happy to be connected to this movie. The Now Playing podcast also brought up how the studio heard loud and clear from the fans last time that they didn't enjoy the movie, but they thought the main complaints were that it was PG-13. In their mind, people were saying the movie sucked because it's PG-13, not knowing that movies can suck in general, and it's not to do whether they're PG-13 or not. Because yeah, you can make good ones, and it's rare an age rating makes or breaks a movie. Rare, I said before you start. As for the brothers, they initially went in pitching a Wolfenstein movie. Fox ended up turning them down, but they were like, hey, why don't you do Aliens vs Predator 2? Which yeah, I kind of wish I got that sort of deal when I got rejected from working at What Culture. But I'm not still bitter about it. Now, they of course had their own ideas, and after the over-the-top action and slow-mo of the original, fans were promised a more serious and darker horror movie. Ooh. But yeah, I didn't expect them to mean dark, literally. Yeah, because the movie's really fucking dark. This was so bad that it kind of sabotaged the movie's release, as it was initially planned to be released in 3D, which was the fashion at the time. However, in doing the post-conversion, they found it was far too dark and thus couldn't bring it across. Which is mental. The decision to have so little light was a deliberate one though. They said that it became apparent the aliens were just dudes in suits, so tried to hide it in the darkness. This is something we talked about in our breakdown of Batman, and they'd scrapped a daylight scene because of how bad the suit looked. Showed at night though, and yeah, one of the best movie costumes ever. Even the cinematographer Daniel Pearl was sick of the directors wanting the movie to be so dark, and thus they kept him in the dark, hey.
It's not bright enough. What the
When it came to the script, the movie also went through a lot of rewrites that were a little close for comfort, let's say. Originally, this was going to focus on the ship landing in Afghanistan during the war in the Middle East. Which, yeah, sounds a bit mental. Predator at this point had several spin-off stories set in major conflicts though, so I can at least get the thinking behind it. However, these were normally period pieces, and they did it excellently in Prey and also Killer of Killers. So yeah, I can see why they wanted to do that. But yeah, stupid idea. Other ideas included humans being abducted by predators and being taken off-world to be used as xeno incubators. Though this didn't make it to the final cut, it is an idea that was sort of used in Predators with the game Preserve Planet and the idea of abduction. But yeah, in the end, they decided to set the movie on Earth, just like the first one. This also meant they made it a direct sequel, despite the directors wanting to set it in the same time frame as Aliens. They did manage to sneak some off-world stuff in though, and this included Yautja Prime. There was also going to be a greater nod to Predator 2, as the studio wanted Adam Baldwin to return. We last saw him at the end of that film, so it would have nicely continued on from there. But 'twasn't meant to be. Instead, the movie used Colonel Stevens in a similar shady government role. However, rewatching it with this in mind, you can see that he'd have fit in very well. And it is kind of a shame, but yeah, dodged a bullet. Now, Lance Henriksen, of course, appeared in AVP1, having been in Aliens and Alien 3. This did kind of mess with the continuity, but fans did sort of mental gymnastics, so he was the basis of Bishop, or something. I don't know, it is like a bit of a mess, because in 3 the guy's human, but then he's got look, either way, this meant that the filmmakers felt a bit more free in their casting. Thus, they asked Bill Paxton to appear, and he of course starred in Aliens and Predator 2. His role here was going to be different from both, but he asked for far too much money, and thus they took him out the movie. The brothers also wanted Michael Biehn to play a Special Forces soldier, but ultimately the studio turned it down. Danny Glover was also considered to reprise his role as Mike Hannigan. As of this movie, the character had been retired for, say it with me, being too old for this shit, but he'd then be pulled back into the fray. Ultimately, it never came to be, but we do know that the character will return. He was featured at the end of Killer of Killers and will come back to the world of Predator. And let's hope he's not too old for this shit. But anyway, we've got a lot to break down, so let's get through it and point out the things I missed because I couldn't see shit. We'll also be going through the unrated cut as well, but firstly, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Okay, so I just want to quickly tell you about Whatnot, which is an absolutely amazing platform for collectors like me and you. I'm sure you've seen the Funkos, action figures, and die-cast cars behind me in the past, and I was absolutely blown away when I first heard about this. In case you don't know, Whatnot's a live stream shopping app where you can buy, sell, and auction literally anything. Personally, I'm following the Funko Pops, Pokemon cards, action figures, men's clothing, die-cast cars, because I've really got into them because of our Bond videos, and basically anything that pops up, like, I could do with more of those. I think over the last decade or so, you know, stuff has shifted to online marketing, and I've kind of started missing the feeling I got when I'd go into my local comic shop and got to know the people that work there. Whatnot brings that feeling back, and it's a live community-driven marketplace where people buy, sell, and discover unique products in real time. I'm a bit of an early bird, and I saw this auction of Pokemon cards going off really early, so I made sure I got involved. I picked up this Rivals booster pack, and it was super easy to bid and pay. They also have Lego, electronics, and video games, and categories for, well, everything. Because of this, you can get some really great deals and also make friends with other sellers and shoppers like you. You can also see when the auctions are scheduled to go live, so you know what time to tune in. Buying is super easy as well, and you can shop your favorite stores from the comfort of your own home. Just click my link in the description or scan my QR code and you'll get $15 free to spend if you're in the US and £10 in the UK. Absolutely free. Just use my code in the description or scan my QR code to get $15 or £10 off. Thanks. Anyway, first question, is Aliens vs Predator Requiem for a Dream or Requiem for a Nightmare? No, it was shit. It is shit, to be fair.
Because now I know who ordered the sausage, lovers.
Now we open with the 20th Century Fox logo, which does the classic drone at the end of the fanfare. We then get the popping of the titles and can hear the motion tracker from Aliens. There, you can also hear the vision mode sound of the outro. The titles also have the classic eye like the Aliens one, which is a neat touch. We then see Earth from outer space, and the first question I had is, why is it called Requiem?
Why?
No idea. Typically, the word means a musical composition as part of a mass or an act of remembrance, which doesn't fit the plot at all. I think though they just wanted a cool sounding title and an RE word which you'll often see in sequels. Batman Returns, Alien Resurrection, The Matrix Reloaded, that sort of thing. Now the opening is a recreation of the ending of AVP1 where we saw our hero Predator get full on chest bursted. This happens as the mothership takes its dead warrior back home. Having just come pretty closely off the back of that last film though, I noticed things look very different now. And not cause it's dark. Playing these scenes side by side, you can see the designs completely changed to where we left things last time. Turn the brightness down. The bed the warrior was placed in is also completely different as well. Now if you watch the theatrical cut, we just go from the ship leaving Earth to the Pred alien and then we cut to the chest bursters being loaded on. However, when the film came out, people pointed out when the ship crashes that it was much smaller than the one we saw last time. So for the extended version, they went back and added in a VFX shot where we see the mothership and then a scout ship shoots out from it. They had to originally create all of the CGI for this bit, so it just added a lot more to the budget. Either way, this scout ship is where the Xenos are making their home. The Yautja are preparing for another hunt and they bring in facehuggers in tubes. It's very similar to how they were kept in testing for Aliens and is a nice little nod to Hadley's Hope. Beyond that, Ripley was also kept in one in Alien Resurrection and these mimic the design of the sleeping pods. Originally, we were going to see them being loaded onto the ship. Well, I say we were going to see it, but you can't see shit. This cut sequence can also be seen in the storyboards, and it was filmed with it appearing in some of the behind-the-scenes footage, but no need to include it. Panning over, we then see a trophy wall with a xenomorph skull on the bottom right, just like Predator 2. There's even an alien queen in the center, showing that one of them managed to take down the fearsome beast. This is seen as one of the most sought-after trophies, and this is why it sits above all. There's also a Triceratops skull on the right, various human skulls, a saber-toothed one, and an engineer skull on the right. Now, as of Prometheus, we know the space jockey and alien was wearing a flight suit and that they looked humanoid. Ridley Scott obviously made the film after this, so it kind of resembles the space jockey and how it was depicted in the comics. Interestingly though, post-Prometheus, an engineer fought a Yautja in the comic Predator Fire and Stone. Now, it does look like a xenomorph skull is being prepared here. They're using a laser as opposed to the mist spray that we've seen in the other movies. Possibly because they take the less advanced tech for their hunts on the planets, which is a big plot. Keeping the shit tech on Earth is a big plot point thing. Either way, it all kicks off and we see the Pred alien arrive. Now, as much as I've been giving this movie shit, this is a great start of the film. We see the classic heat vision as well as the alien vision, which debuted in the previous AVP movie. This is because the creatures have an exoskeleton that doesn't emit heat, and thus they have an extra mode that allows them to see the creature. My man is an absolute idiot though, as he starts firing his plasma caster on the ship. Mate, have you never seen Goldfinger? Never bloody shoot the hole, especially if you're in space. It causes a hole in the ship that sends it crashing into Earth, and in early drafts this is actually where the Predalien would have been killed. During the descent towards Earth, the Predator would fire another blast and finish it off and basically make it the shortest movie ever made. Now, but I think this shows that they didn't really want to be too attached to the previous film, and basically, like every Resident Evil film, you know, they do the exact same thing. They normally end things on a big cliffhanger and then wrap it up in the first 2 minutes of the next one so they can tell the story they actually want to tell. But in the end, these guys decided to hold on to it and they rewrote the movie to keep the creature in for longer. We then cut to a man teaching his son how to hunt, which fits in nicely with the theme of the Predator. The hunt's then interrupted as the scout ship crashes and it comes down in Gunnison, Colorado. A similar kind of plot device was also used in the opening of the Predator when the fugitive Predator ship crash lands on Earth. Maybe this signals it's a bad movie ahead. Like absolute dumbasses though, the father and son then head to the crash site. Now, I did initially think the VFX were terrible, but it has a heat wave coming off it that makes it have this kind of blurred effect. Tapping the ship, they then wake up the facehuggers as well as the Yautja. He then tries to use his self-destruct device, just like the jungle hunter, but he gets his arm chopped off. Just like this absolute doofus human is about to have happened to him. Now, one of the main cardinal sins a predator can commit is to leave their tech in the hands of humans or another alien species. It's thought that if they get it, they may come looking for them and it would flip the hunter dynamic. And also mean that they couldn't come back to Earth, aka their favourite safari planet. So that's why both the predators try to destroy everything. I'll talk about Wolf more in just a bit, but yeah, the movie, it is kind of at odds with itself because you've got like Wolf coming in to tidy up, but also leaving behind skin bodies as evidence. The plasma shotgun also makes its way to Ms. Yutani at the end as well, so yeah, didn't really do much of a good job. We then see as the hunter's son falls over and they've now become the hunted. It's also, again, very similar to the opening of The Predator, with that movie also canonizing this AVP franchise. Two pieces of shit together, yay! Our guy then shoots a facehugger like Graham Miller in the first movie, however he gets alien blood all over his arm. This is of course acidic, it burns it off, and it sets a tone for just how gross and gory this movie's gonna be. He then gets face hugged along with his son right after this, and it lets you know the kids aren't safe this time around, mate. Which, as I've mentioned numerous times, if they kill kids, I can respect it. I respect that. However, a big issue that I have with the movie is that I think it almost goes too over the top with its body count. Now, you guys know, yeah, I love a good Halloween kills, and I'm not too bothered about a murder spree. However, I think here we literally just meet characters and watch them get killed in the next scene, and this happens over and over and over and over. So because of this, you don't really get attached to the characters at all because they're normally introduced and dead before you get to know them. In the end, it just kind of desensitizes you to the violence because you're seeing gore for gore's sake. You can't really gravitate towards any of the characters because most of them are dead in the next scene. However, there were rumours that Wolf was originally put in place to be the lead, which would make this the first film where a Yautja was the main character. This later happened in Predator Badlands, but I can see a version of this film where we follow him on his mission. It's here that we then cut to the character on Yautja Prime and watch as he springs into action. The planet was first shown in the comic Predator homeworld, which may have inspired this movie. It features predators that land in Yellowstone National Park and has the same shady government figures we get here. The planet, however, wasn't officially named until Predator Eyes of the Demon. The concept art for this world looks really cool though, and I really hope Trachtenberg visits this world in depth at some point. The planet also orbits a binary star system similar to Tatooine. It features a wide range of biomes and will play a role in Predator Badlands. That movie's director and new steward of the Predator franchise, Dan Trachtenberg, said that the city, jungle and berserker predators all hail from the forest part of the planet. On the flip side of this, the feral predator from Prey comes from the desert part, so that's why they all look slightly different. Either way, it's here we meet Wolf, Aura farming in his chair, and we can see that he's missing a mandible on the top left of his face, which was probably lost in combat. He's a total badass though, so it's no surprise he survived whatever broke that off. Deck also has something similar on Badlands, and this was inspired by Broken Tusk from the original AVP comic. Now the face was made with animatronics, and he was named Wolf after the character from Pulp Fiction. Played there by Harvey Keitel, he basically comes in to do cleanup and mop up other people's mess. The brothers Strauss wanted him to be a more slimmed down version like the original Predator as opposed to the muscular beasts of AVP-1. Under the suit is also Ian White, who played the Yautja in AVP-1 as well as the engineer in Prometheus. The helmet was also inspired by the City Hunters one, and it has Yautja writing on it. He actually has a wall of masks to use, depending on what he feels like, and I wonder if each of them is used for a specific enemy or planet. Either way, he suits up like he's Batman and hops on his ship to go and clean up after his comrades. He also grabs the plasma shotgun along with the whip, which wasn't actually in the script, but it does come in very handy later. Wolf then fires up his ship, which is a lot different to the ones that we've seen in the franchise so far. It's less sleek than the Scout and motherships, and more akin to the design of the Lost Tribe ship from Predator 2. And that's the last cool moment in the movie. End of breakdown. Now if you want something else to watch, we've got a video on... No, unfortunately, it's got nearly 2 hours left. Kill me! We then cut to the cop Morales, who's waiting for our protagonist Dallas to return home. Dallas is a convict who's clearly named after the character from the first Alien movie, and he's played by Stephen Pasquale, whom I had no idea was married to Hamilton star Philippa Sue. But a bit of trivia for you there. All about the front of the bus, the guy's also adjusting his scene kid's hair. And it looks like an emo fringe as well, which is so 2007. Now, we never find out what Dallas did to end up in jail. They never use it to be like, I'm redeeming myself. And the minor dialogue we get here, that's only in the unrated version. Dallas seems to have a strained relationship with his brother Ricky, who's unfortunately following in his brother's footsteps. The original script explained that Dallas took the blame for something Ricky did, and it also explained how their father is away on rig and sends them money every month. It's here that the movie then turns into a typical teen slasher film and starts introducing loads of teen characters. This was done because the studio realized, our target audience are people who are teenagers, so we need to sell the movie to them, so put in loads of teenagers. Ricky's trying to style his hair while working at the pizza place, and he's sick of wearing a hat when he has a sick do, bro. I'm not sure if it's intentional, but AVP kind of opened with a dude bringing pizza to his workplace, but yeah, it's making me realize that bringing pizza somewhere, pizza delivery guys, pizza popping up, it's kind of a staple in movies at this point. It's the go-to food. You may also recognize his boss as none other than David Hornsby, who plays Rickety Cricket in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He makes poor old Ricky deliver pizza to his crush's house, which we see a bit later. However, the boss says he needs to go to 1427 Watercress, but as we see later, the house is 1012.
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Delving into the sewers, we see a policeman searching the area for the two hunters. Coming across a homeless guy looking for his dog, the pet arrives carrying the dad's arm from before. Now this dog was actually supposed to be impregnated by a chestburster later on. It would have happened later when the pred alien storms the sewers, and a chestburster would have then popped out in front of the survivor group later on before then being swiftly shot. Now I think a big missed opportunity in this movie is that we don't have any xenomorphs birthed from animals. Like, I don't know if you remember, mate, I don't know if you're as old as me, but there used to be these great alien toys in the 90s where it was like all different subspecies. Used to be like a scorpion one, a bull one, and just loads of different types. I really wish we'd got that kind of variety here, because you could have used lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. I did wonder if this dog inspired the Predator dogs that we see in the Predator, but yeah, it's kind of a miss when the movie's set with access to things beyond humans. Because, you know, like in Aliens and Alien 3, it's always humans, or like it does infect an ox or a dog. But yeah, just having a forest full of creatures, you could have had so much variety. Ricky then arrives at the house and we get a look at his crush Jessie. One problem though, she's got a douchebag jock boyfriend. Jessie's happy to see him though, but the moment's crushed when Ricky gets clowned on. Her boyfriend and his mates are just broing it out and making fun of him for having a job. Blondie doesn't like that they're flirting, and he looks away from the big game, planning his revenge. He also doesn't know he's about to get dumped. She says she's going to fire him, and wait, $53.50 for 4 pizzas.
We have to go back!
He then gets sucker punched by Dale outside, who then throws his keys into the drain.
We can find him in 30 minutes or less, asshole.
Sick reference though, bro.
Oh, thanks, bud.
Dude, your references are out of control. Everyone knows that.
Nah, but definitely call the police or something, because that's a bit of a dick move. Now, you may wonder why he didn't just go down and get them out. However, he didn't want to look like a chump and have the dudes basically watching and mocking him. So he decides to go somewhere else across the town and go under the town and through the sewers that way. Smart that. We then catch up with the cop as he's looking for the 2 hunters, and he's told that the dad usually goes out with his kid. It's really, really dark, like actually dark this time, as you know exactly what's about to happen. He has that lucidity between the face hug and burst, and I always think of this as being like that moment before someone dies where they can seem sprightly and have even made a good recovery, only to pass away in like a few hours after. It's something they did with Arthur and Alien Earth, and I did wonder if the facehugger leaves you with a state of euphoria. Not only is he about to die a horrible and painful death though, but he actually sees his dad die first. The scene is longer in the unrated edition, as we see the burster from a slightly different angle and get more of the burster. You know, in case you wanted to see more of a child dying, you piece of shit. We then cut to Kelly O'Brien, who's returned from a tour of duty. She's played by Rico Aylesworth, who you might recognise from 24. There's actually a lot wrong with her uniform though, and shoutouts to uniform history for spotting all these inaccuracies. Now, she's in the US Army, but the pattern is the Marine Corps' Desert Digital pattern. This is majorly incorrect, as the badge on her right arm says she's in the 101st Airborne. The airborne patch should be directly above the eagle, just like in this picture on screen right now. The flag on the left arm is also the wrong way around and should look like this. There's also no rank on her uniform, and
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
now if you want some clothes that it's never a mistake to wear, why not check out our merch store right below the video? There we've got all our Alien and Predator inspired stuff. Obviously we've been going through both franchises. There's some amazing designs by Sheridan, and it all goes towards helping videos like this get made. On top of that, to make it even better, say you like 3 shirts made, but oh, I don't want to spend as much. Well, guess what, mate? If you buy 3 or 2 or something else, you get more of a discount. So it pays to spend. So yeah, thank you for picking one up, and you look fantastic. We then see her husband and kid greet her at the door. Her daughter looks through her bag and asks if the night vision goggles are for her. Also, I love how Kelly's managed to bring home a piece of equipment that's worth thousands purely just for a souvenir. What happened to just bringing home a thimble? At least for now though, they have an extra vision mode, and it obviously is going to come in handy when they face up against the creatures. Sort of giving her an extra vision like the Predator, I suppose. Ricky then climbs through his window because, hey, he's lost his keys. That's continuity, which I appreciate. It's also funny as later Kelly's husband will get mauled by a xenomorph through the window. There's a lovely family reunion here though, and his home's a hodgepodge of retro tech and also stuff you'd find in your nana's house. Shows how poor they are compared to Dale, and highlights the creatures are infecting all walks of life. Ricky then grabs a bat, wanting to go and get revenge, but luckily Dallas stops him and decides to help him go get the keys. It's game over, and now for the homeless people though, as a facehugger crawls into the sewers, which angers the dog. A lot like the pipe scene in Alien 3. The facehugger then jumps at one of them from the water, and it's much faster than the slow-mo used in the first Aliens vs Predator. And to be fair, it's a pretty strong scene. Reminds me of Alien Resurrection as well, where we saw the xenomorphs could swim. The hugger then hits the second guy, and this was also done using animatronics. We then see a xenomorph appear, which is actually Tom Woodruff Jr. in the suit. We mentioned earlier how he was one of the guys who worked on the special effects, and it's nice to see a man who can multitask. According to the book Inside the Monster Shop, filming down there was a nightmare though because the space was so small and they couldn't get much crew down. Guessing the lighting guys didn't come down by the looks of it. One of their friends then comes across them, which is when the xenomorph goes after her. We almost get that iconic shot of the Xenos face right next to Ripley, which also gets referenced later on. It's also a lot like the scene where Lambert dies in the original movie. In the unrated version, this runs a little longer, but yeah, it doesn't really add much. It then gets worse as the xenomorph's back slapped and the Pred alien arrives. I'll forgive you for not really seeing it though, and I actually had to rewind this scene because I didn't realise that the new creature had come in. It was that dark. Now, as this being was gestated in a Yautja, the team decided it would pick up traits from its host. So we can see the dreadlock-style tendrils on its head, as well as the skin colour and more muscular look of the predator. The directors wanted to be 80% alien and 20% Yautja, and again, the xenomorph taking on different traits has some precedent in the past. To keep the fact that the Pred-Alien hybrid was going to be in the movie as well, they did a secret and nicknamed it Chet to keep things out of the newspapers. Oh yeah, if you saw the last movie, mate, you kind of had a fair idea where it was going. Either way, though, they picked Chet because that's a name that's usually associated with obnoxious characters like in Weird Science. The Pred-Alien is also apparently a young queen, and early designs use molds from the one in AVP-1. The biggest difference between this one and a normal xenomorph is how the Pred-Alien reproduces. While xenomorphs use facehuggers on hosts, this hybrid impregnates women. It fits in with the forced birth metaphor that the franchise is known for, even if all the art and highbrow filmmaking is completely stripped from the movie. Wolf then finally arrives on Earth as we see a drop pod separate from the main ship. It's pretty much identical to the first Predator, where we saw the Jungle Hunter ship do the same thing in the opening. The pod then lands in the water, and I do wonder if that's a deliberate choice so that Wolf can hide their tech. However, water damages their camo, and we do see it glitching out. Predator 1 saw the Jungle Hunter's camo get damaged after the waterfall scene, and Predator 2 also saw the City Hunter have this happen when he stepped through a puddle, which was a bit funny. Prey had a similar thing as well, and yeah, it's just laced throughout the franchise. It just disappears whenever it comes into contact with water. Just like us, he also can't see a damn thing as it's so dark. That is, until he locates the crash site and leaps down into the ship. He looks sad as he touches the mask of the Yautja we saw earlier, and he then takes it off. Again, this is another staple of the franchise, with it being done in every Predator since the first one.
You're one ugly motherfucker.
Putting on the slain Yautja mask, we see the scene from earlier, and Wolf analyzes the footage and sees he's dealing with a Pred-Alien. This is different to the theatrical cut, as he basically just gets some text that explains what happened. And did you really need to cut this? I mean, it lasted like 2 minutes, but yeah. Either way, he knows the Pred-Alien's tough and is insanely strong. I'm guessing this has happened before, but for some reason he doesn't call for backup. He then pulls out a syringe that contains liquid. However, when he goes to use it on the tube, it's empty and then starts to fill up.
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
This is kept in his wrist gauntlet, which then allows him to track the Pred-Alien. Wolf then takes the shurikens we saw in the last movie, as well as the dissolving liquid that he'll use later on. He also takes another plasma caster so he can dual wield the deadly weapons. It's like the proto-Predator killer armor or a Revenant from the Doom franchise. He then blows up the crashed ship using the same device that the Jungle Hunter had and sprints away just like Dutch did at the end of Predator. We then cut to Molly using her night vision goggles as her mother comes in. Now this might be a bit of a reach, but the mother-daughter relationship reminds me a lot of Newt and Ripley. Both Molly and Newt were residents of a place that got infected with Xenos and had a badass mother figure that helped them survive. There's notable friction between the pair though, as Kelly's been away and the dad's done most of the parenting. Much like how Quinn had bonding issues with his son in The Predator. Funnily enough, that movie's director Shane Black has a reference to his Predator 1 character in this entry later on, which you have to stick around because we're gonna point it out. You could miss that detail. Why would you want to leave this video? The dad then comes in and lays down the law, and Molly wants him to read the story, not her. It's a twist, on the usual family trope where the mum is typically the comforting one for the kids. Furthering the Ripley connection, that character left her child to go off and be a space trucker, and her daughter grew old and she missed out on having those precious moments with her. Which could kind of be what they're playing on with her going off to be in the army. Or whatever it was, because they got the patch wrong. But I could be reaching as usual. We then see Kelly come downstairs wearing a white dressing gown. One that is very similar to the one that Ripley wore in Aliens. So maybe I'm not reaching. The couple then share a tender moment which was only in the unrated version. Makes sense to include this though, as it makes his death later on much more impactful, and yeah, I do think the new stuff's there, but they didn't really flesh it out, so it's not as prevalent as it could have been. The movie also reminds me of the first run of the AVP comics. There we saw a colony built on a Yautja hunting site, which led to ordinary folk being killed. Either way, we then head to the sewers with the two brothers. The rats scurry past them, which is shorthand for danger is that way. Normally, you'd get the hell out of there, but the guy has a shift tomorrow, so he desperately needs his car. We then see the dead xenomorph, showing just how deadly this predalien is. The use of hooks and chains here is also very much in line with the Alien franchise as well. On the Nostromo, they look like the xenomorph tails, which we saw during Brett's death. So nicely plays off that. Riggy then sticks his hand in the shit water and his brother grills him on Jesse. They're spooked by the chestburster, which looks horrible, and it's a far cry from the campy action of AVP1. Dallas then finds a facehugger skin, and this is a callback to when Brett picks up the same thing just before his death. Now we were supposed to get a scene after this where the brothers leave, they're all panicking, whoa, 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 and then woo, a truck almost hits them. You know the one, you've seen movies before, and they always do that little jump scare to kind of ease the tension a bit by giving us a final shock and then bringing things down. They're informed that the town meeting is about to take place though, and then Morales lets everyone know that a father and son are missing. Awkwardly as well, someone suggests that Dallas could be involved. I don't know though, mate, did no one hear the massive fucking spaceship crashing into Earth? Cutting to the hunter's wife, she then comes to find out if anyone's seen her husband or son. We then see what might be Dale's dad say how they look after their own. He then defies orders and joins in with the search. It explains why Dale goes to the school later and finds his ex going for a midnight swim session with Ricky. This scene was also a new addition to the unrated edition, but yeah, it doesn't really add much. Out in the field, they then spread out and search for the pair as Wolf stalks them. He spots the trail left behind by the predalien, and the search is called off for the night. The mother/wife then tries to guilt them into continuing, saying they wouldn't stop looking for her. The husband of the waiter stays out though, while the wolf disintegrates the body of the father and son. Now this liquid is similar to the dissolver spray that the jungle hunter used to clean his kills in Predator 1. Here though, it's used to hide any evidence of them being on Earth, which makes sense as he's supposed to be a cleaner. Poor old Ray then sees this going on, and when his radio goes off, Wolf instantly turns on the camo. The eyes then flash blue, which kind of defeats the point though. However, this is, obviously a nod to the jungle hunter's eyes flashing orange when Duke spotted him in the Predator, so yeah, whatever. That's fine, I'm sure. Yeah, I guess. Walt then kills him, and we cut to the next day where we see the hunter's wife is putting up missing person posters, which does seem redundant if the whole town's looking for them, I'm just saying. Also, that guy is 36, dear me. He is younger than me, that lad, and that makes me think the kid must have been a right little shit. But yeah, the whole town's on lookout, there's posters going up, and even the news is reporting on them not being found anywhere. Dallas then talks to Ray's wife, and we get more shots of the diner, which were all added to the unrated version, because we're going extreme. The waitress then jokingly says how the bank is hiring. This hints that he went to jail for robbing a bank, which we mentioned earlier could have actually been Ricky. We then see Officer Morales come in, and the waitress reveals that Ray never came home. Surely this officer should have checked that everyone came back in before hitting the hay, but moving on. Right after this, Morales then finds his body strung up just like Dutch's crew in Predator 1, as well as Danny in Predator 2. It's nice to know that Wolf has the time to do the important stuff. And yeah, while covering up the Predator's presence on Earth, he's also just going about leaving bodies hanging up everywhere. Now, originally, they actually wanted the predalien to be the one that was skinning people, along with other Yautja. This would have taken place on the ship at the beginning, and basically playing to the idea of cocoon and trophies. The morgue attendant's also shocked that anyone could do this and asks what Morales is going to do. Meanwhile, we pan over to the forest as Wolf tracks the predalien to the sewers. Yay, another showdown in somewhere we can't see. In the night, the predaliens made a hive, and I do like the idea of it going on beneath the town. Moving further in, he then places laser mines on the wall, and Alec Gillis explained how they're the precursor to the self-destruct device. And going beyond this, the plasma shotgun is the precursor to the plasma caster. Having it all tied to that as well just makes sense, and he activates the mines using his wrist coordinate. It's a nice development as well, and the mines were also used in Prey. He then pulls up the map, which is also similar-ish to the one the young hunters used in AVP1. It's also very, very video gamey and reminded me of like something from Dead Space. We then see a xenomorph peel itself off the pipes, which is much like the first encounter in Aliens. Wolf is smart though, as he lures them into his trap with the laser mines and shoots them with his plasma caster. The scene is also similar to the shootout in Aliens, as they both take place in cramped tunnels. It's also almost identical to the scene where Grid and the other Xenos attack Lex and Scar. He's soon overwhelmed though, but he rises up holding two xenomorphs. They're almost blasted by his 2 plasma caster, but he then gets his ass beat by the Predalien, who then launches him through the concrete. This hybrid is extremely strong, as we can see, and it bursts right through the pavement above them, and gives us a lovely Papa John's product placement. Now, I don't like product placement as much as the next guy, but you'd think in a movie where they have a guy who works at a pizza place that they literally use the pizza place that's paying for their movie. Either way, Wolf isn't strong enough to burst through the concrete, and he needs to use his brass knuckles. A wrist device then turns into a power glove, and this allows him to burst through. The Predalien then gets away, but luckily he can track it. Meanwhile, Ricky meets Jessie, and she reveals that she's dumped Dale. She can tell Ricky's into her, and we get some of the cringiest dialogue I think there's ever been in this franchise.
You know, you look at me that same way in class.
Yeah, well, the clock's behind you.
What?
Tomorrow when you're in class, turn around. You'll see it.
Yeah, I know that it's there, but you both know that's not what you're looking at.
The clock line is something that she later uses at the swimming pool though, and yeah, great bit of dialogue.
Are you looking at me? Or the clock?
I'm looking at the fucking clock, love, because I'm wondering when the fuck this is gonna end. Yep, we went from Aliens films at points which were considered art to this shit. Yay! Either way, as we've said, she's dumped Dale and has moved on. We then catch up with the waitress though, who gets stripped on. Again, this is similar to before Brett was killed, and it was later used in Alien Earth on the Maginot. The poor old waitress then says she'll be staying at one of her friends, and we see her rubbing her stomach. Later, the Predalien looks at her belly and is clearly using her to gestate because she's pregnant. It then seems like the chef's spine's ripped out, which is a trademark of the Oucher. So, while the Predalien doesn't skin people, it does appear to be taking trophies. It's a very brutal scene, and did remind me a lot of the kitchen scene in Jurassic Park. A pure xenomorph then smells her, which again is much like the trademark scene from Alien 3. The scene was originally supposed to be much longer though, and we'd get some point of view Predalien shots where it tracked and stalked the waitress. This would have confirmed as well why she was one of its victims. It could see her fetus, and as mentioned, this Predalien's part queen. We saw the alien queen laying eggs in AVP-1, but here it deposits them straight into a host's throat. So the egg sac is part of the Predalien's mouth, and yeah, it's pretty weird to be honest. We then go to Molly, and I like how we think there's a facehugger, but she's just reaching for the night vision goggles. Later on, she looks out the window and sees a xenomorph in her backyard. Once again, reminding me of Jurassic Park, but this time it's the Lost World. Molly's parents think she was just having a nightmare, but we get a very cool jump scare. But yeah, it's literally just the scene from the Lost World, and I did wonder how they thought they could just shamelessly nick it. Her dad's then massacred, and the pair run as fast as they can. Now, the father was originally going to survive, which happened in a deleted scene where they then run to a bus depot and meet with other survivors. Molly would have also had a different introduction. Dale and his mates would have been playing stickball, and they would have asked Molly to retrieve the ball. We then see a xenomorph about to grab her before she pulled the ball out the drain. So sort of playing off it a bit. Meanwhile, we see Morales and Dallas chilling at the bar. Don't really think this is time for a drink though, mate. He tells them about Ray, and Dallas asks if he's informed his wife. This line is also for the unrated version. Look, we're being thorough. The pair are then alerted to a gas explosion in the sewer, and for some reason, Dallas goes with the cop, which doesn't make much sense, but he's like, I'm gonna come along for the ride. We then catch up with Wolf as he's chased by the Predalien to the power plant. Now this could be a reach, but it might be a homage to the atmospheric processing plant from Aliens. I love as well how he gets him in the vision and he's already fired off his shot because yeah, it's on site, mate. A poor power plant worker then gets his head tongued, and this was actually a model made for the movie that I think translates really well to screen, so I've been dogging you for a bit, but well done. Wolf then finds the helmet and tracks the Predalien with all hell breaking loose. Rather jarringly, this scene is also interspersed with a scene at the swimming pool, which editing wise is such a weird choice. You've got the pair getting close, but cut through this is Wolf and the Predalien fighting. I don't know if they're trying to tie the themes of hunting together, because Dale shows up to beat him up, but you've got two of the universe's greatest hunters, and then two high schoolers having a fight. So I don't know if it works, mate. The pair duke it out though, with the Predator getting some serious damage that causes him to fire blindly at the power plant. This then causes a power cut, which, Predators are fucking idiots, and thus the lights go out across the town. Things then go from bad to worse as Xenomorph jumps into the pool. It reminds me a lot of when Newt was snatched during Aliens, and builds off the creatures swimming in Alien Resurrection. One of the bullies is grabbed as they try to escape, and it then leads into a bloodbath. I said bloodbath. The xenomorph from the pool then drags its kill and starts to feed on it. Now, I believe this is the first time we've actually seen a xenomorph on screen. Normally, they take their prey away and cocoon them and just leave them for a facehugger. So I don't know if they didn't get the memo or wanted to add this, but it shows that the creatures actually eat humans. The feast doesn't last long though, as it's killed by Wolf using his combi stick. The stick is probably my favourite weapon out of your arsenal, but it sadly doesn't get much use here. The Xenos then dissolved, and we later see when Morales and de facto Deputy Dallas arrive, it's even dissolved away the water. Hearing from Ricky that there's something at the school, this then feels very much like a teen horror movie. I did also feel like it was sort of playing off the scene in Predator 2 where the cops discover the massacre. It's just a lot darker and grittier, and a lot darker because you can't see shit. But yeah, I love these scenes in movies where people show up in the aftermath. Overall, it's actually a good part of the movie, and the lockers lined with blood add so much atmosphere. This short scene was actually not in the theatrical cut, but only in the unrated version, and I have no idea why they cut it. Dallas then thinks that they should be calling for help, but surely, like an explosion at a nuclear power plant, that would be like national news.
Why?
Where's the governor?
Why?
Where's the senators?
Why?
Why am I doing this movie? Because I'm nice to you guys. At the diner, we then see the hunter's wife witness the waitress with a baby belly burster, which is what I'm calling it. In the theatrical cut, she actually found the waitress after the chest burster had disappeared and simply walked in on the aftermath. Now, because of this is actually the first Alien movie where we don't actually see a facehugger come from an egg due to this new gestation method. We then see multiple bursters come out of the woman's stomach, and this allows the Predalien to saturate Guinnison without eggs. The huggers need to be near a human and only produce one xenomorph, whereas here they can reproduce at a rapid rate. I did even wonder if they deposited extra embryos due to there being a baby inside the woman's body, which then meant there were more hosts. The town also sounds like it's an absolute chaos, and we pan up a tree and see Wolf at the top. The blood is going up the tree, and it did make me wonder if we were going to pan up and see Wolf had been hanged and skinned. This is because the music's the same as in Predator when Billy sees the Green Berets. Now this scene also kind of mirrors the medkit scene from that first movie. There the jungle hunter's blood was noticed and it then tried to heal itself. Wolf then howls in pain at the medical device healing its wounds, and the jungle hunter did the exact same thing. Jungle's howls alerted Dutch's crew, while here Wolf's howls alerts Molly, Kelly and an old guy. Those three are hiding out in a graveyard, and it might be a callback to Predator 2 as the city hunter stalked Mike at Danny's grave. At the start of the scene, the older guy's also leaning on a grave which has the name Hawkins on it, which is the name of Shane Black's character in Predator 1. Was it worth sticking around for that Easter egg? Let me know in the comments below, and don't dislike the video, and make sure you subscribe, and make sure you buy our merch, and make sure you become a member for 99 cents a month. The guy then gets a mother and daughter to hide behind the grave as the town sounds like all hell's breaking loose. Wolf hears them and sees the guy stand up, and we hear his dialogue repeating like in Predator 1 and Predator 2. He then gets plasma casted in one hell of a shot. Can't show it here because of bloody YouTube, but it's moments like this that really stepped up the rating and took things from the PG-13 last time. Luckily for the girls, Wolf's laser sight hits the gun, which convinces Kelly to run away without it. Had she picked it up, she would have been fair game for the creature, but as she's unarmed, the code of honor prevents Wolf from killing her. Similar to how the city hunter let the kid go out the cemetery in Predator 2. We then see the whole town's trying to evacuate. One thing I liked about this movie was how it seemed like a perfect sequel to Paul W.S. Anderson's first one in more than just a story continuation. Anderson, of course, helmed the Resident Evil movie series, and the first AVP was kind of similar to that film as it takes place in a secret underground facility. That was of course based on Resident Evil 1, and its sequel was about an overrun Raccoon City. Though primarily based around Resident Evil 2, it also took the city being nuked from part 3. They end this film that same way, with a city being destroyed by an atomic bomb that just wipes everything out. It also builds off the Predator history scene from last time where we saw them nuking the Aztecs. Or Mayans, I can't remember. Basically though, resorting to the strategy of just blowing everything up when a place gets overrun. Morales then almost runs over the hunter's wife, who tells them what happened to the waitress. We then learn that the National Guard are on their way, however these survivors need weapons to last as long as possible. In addition to this, Dale gets put in his place, which was really satisfying to see. There's also no signal on the Nokia phone. You see kids, before your fancy Androids and iPhones, we had brick phones and none of your Snapchats and iMessages.
Hey everybody, an old man's talking.
And it was better back then. This no signal could also be a reference to the first Predator, as deep in the jungle their radios wouldn't work. And it's kind of a modern day equivalent to that. And I say modern day, it's like 20 years old at this point. In another connection to Resident Evil, the gun shop was also a key location in Resident Evil 2. And I've just realised the new Resident Evil is called Resident Evil Requiem. Fucking hell! Which is definitely not a good sign. The National Guard then finally arrives, but ends up suffering the same fate as the Colonial Marines in Aliens. We see the soldiers being slowly picked off by the xenomorphs as they patrol with night vision, similar to the Yautja. One of the workers in the shop then thinks terrorists are the ones behind the attack. Something that was a fear at the time due to the Afghan and Iraq wars raging on. The two guys are then recruited into this new posse as Molly and Kelly run into the same building. It's one problem though, the roof is swarming with xenomorphs. The Ripley new connection then goes further as they try and join a crew of people with guns. We were also supposed to see Morales die here as he was gonna get ripped to shreds. But he survived, yay, amazing, he's my favourite character in my favourite movie. Cutting to the hospital, we then see how the town's in disarray and a pregnant woman's being taken in. The Now Playing podcast brought up how stupid it was that all the survivors went to the hospital looking for a helicopter when they could have probably just driven out of town. I mean, the National Guard have just drove in, so the roads are clear. But no, instead, they need to head to the hospital because it has a helicopter on the roof. And yeah, that's how they're going to escape. But part of me, the cynic in me, literally thinks they engineer this entire thing just to say this one line. Get to the chopper! At said hospital, we see people being wheeled in, but these aren't any of our main leads. Now, being not a screenwriter myself, but watching a lot of movies, I would have thought you could have had like the characters getting injured at some point in the movie and then taken here, and this is where the group all forms. Like screenwriting 101, mate. The Pred alien then goes to the newborns, and we see it visiting the pregnant woman's ward. Killing the nurse, it then goes to impregnate the pregnant woman, which it's kind of like, I don't know, mate. I don't get offended by stuff, but it kind of just feels like it's been done for shock value rather than having like anything to say. Like I said, mate, that first Alien movie was art, and what the fuck is this? Back at the hunting store, Wolf then attacks our boy Dallas as he's holding a gun. He's strung up and used for bait so Wolf can kill the xenomorphs. I did laugh at how quickly he got out of the trap though, and Wolf made no effort to move him away from the other survivors. The poor stoners then get their heads blown off, and Dale decides to ditch and become xenomorph food. His face then gets Freddy Kruegered, and as he's not holding a weapon, Wolf doesn't put him out of his misery. Harsh that, mate, very harsh, but dems the rules. The throwdown between the xenomorph and Wolf then happens off screen for some reason, and this is another issue that I have with this movie. In a versus film, you want to see some fights between the Predator and Alien. And you also want to see a winner come out on top. Instead though, they nuke the place as the battle's at a stalemate and kill most of the characters, so you don't really get the satisfaction of there being a decided winner. You know what I mean? Like Godzilla vs. Kong, like, yeah, you have a winner that comes out of that. And you'd think in a versus movie, you want to have a fucking winner. That's the whole point. That's why we want to see them fight. Now, there are actually two characters, Kendra and Curtis, who were cut from the movie. They were originally going to see the nurse getting killed and then try and escape the hospital in a car. A xenomorph would then jump, but Kendra would throw it off by braking. They cut that out though, so they don't really do shit. Either way, at the hospital, the doctor's killed and the pregnant woman's turned into a sort of hive. She's turned into a cocoon, much like we saw in a deleted scene on the Nostromo, Alien Resurrection, and Alien vs. Predator 1. It also makes sense why it kills the male doctor, as it can seemingly only impregnate women. Unlike the facehuggers, it bites off his nose, which kills him, and though it's a bit of a shock to see it pull back, it doesn't really make any sense why he dies from getting his nose bitten off. But never mind. The survivors then see the site of the massacre and call for help. Colonel Stevens answers, and as mentioned, he was originally going to be Adam Baldwin's character from Predator 2. Some of that plot still lives on here though. We can see OWF on his monitor, and in case you didn't know, that stands for Otherworldly Life Forms. They've investigated every sighting of the Yautja, such as the incident in 1987. They then got turned into Project Stargazer in the Predator. So it's pretty cool that the group gets a nod here. It's projecting a containment level, but as we know, the Predalien's breeding much faster than a normal xenomorph outbreak, which is probably why the nuke was authorized in the first place. He looks like he's in a trailer, much like Keyes had in Predator, but we later see he's actually in a plane. Steven then says, "What the fuck are you?" as he sees the footage of the Predalien. It's exactly what Dutch said to the jungle hunter. The noise we hear when Stevens uses the console also sounds like Mother from Alien. He has far more information than someone who's there on a rescue mission, as we can see a hive on camera from the hospital. They're then told that the airlift will be in 30 minutes, but actually, it's a trap! He can't let anyone who's seen what happened get out, and containment comes first. They then head off in the striker tanks, which calls back to Aliens, as we had everyone driving in an APC. Back at the hospital, we can then see, wait, no, I can't see shit, and this movie is far too dark. I'm trying to find Easter eggs in this shit, and I can't fucking see it. I actually boosted the brightness for this bit as Wolf's standing on a roof charging his handheld plasma caster up, which is a great detail I'm sure you're glad I spent time on. We then see the xenomorph swarming in, and Kelly explains to everyone how the airlift's a trap. She knows firsthand from working in the army that they just think of containment first. The hunter's wife then says it's crazy as the government doesn't lie. Okay. They then plan to nab the hospital chopper, which is a big risk as the survivors there could have already taken it. Rickety Cricket joins them though as Morales departs for the airlift, which is clearly never coming. I mean, but to be fair though, I would have joined them. Arriving at the hospital, we then see it's a ghost town and Kelly's to be protected at all costs due to her being the pilot. Luckily though, the chopper is still on the roof as we see Wolf scout the area. The hospital itself has been turned into a hive though, and the Yautja sees skeletons in the wall. Poor old Rickety Cricket is then the first victim as the survivors light up the xenomorph and Jesse runs away. Wolf then throws down with the Predalien, but it lets one of its offspring fight the Yautja. Poor old Jesse then gets skewered by one of the shurikens, which is quite brutal. The unrated cut even included extra footage that showed her just hanging there ripped in half. The Predator would also bring back these shurikens as well as the Project Stargazer soldier cut off his arm when trying to use one. Ricky then stupidly fires at Wolf, which leads the Yautja to get speared down the lift shaft. The brother then gets stabbed with the Predalien's tail, and this is a classic move that took out Bishop in Aliens. However, the character does survive the encounter. Initially though, in the original version, Ricky was actually supposed to die here. The Predalien would have ripped him in two, just like what the Queen did to the android. However, Fox hated it, and as such, he was just impaled instead. The armor does nothing. We then cut to the airlift survivors who are all under siege from all angles. You can also hear the motion tracker sound effect.
God help us all.
Meanwhile, our hospital crew attempt to get to the chopper. But yeah, I'm telling you, mate, this movie was all written so they could just say this line. Dallas then acts as a distraction as Kelly, Molly and Ricky make their way to the chopper. It's similar to Billy who held off the jungle hunter so the others could get away. He also says, "Hey, come on over here!" Just like Dutch when he tried to lure the Predator into his trap.
Come on, come on. Kill me, I'm here, kill me!
He blasts his xenomorph, then another runs right past him, hands out, just like when the creature took Dallas in the first film. Wolf then arrives at this point though and unveils one of the most unique weapons in his arsenal. It's the whip!
Correct that whip.
And finally, the Predalien and Wolf face off 1v1. All the while, Stevens is looking at a nuclear strike about to go down. Morales wants to know how long until they're going to be evacuated, and he just keeps saying, yeah, nah, aircraft's on the way, mate. I'm round the corner. There will be no airlift, you stupid slut. Wolf then strips off his masks and weapons to fight on an equal footing with the Predalien, just like the jungle hunter did before fighting Dutch. I don't know why the Predalien just stands there and lets him do the whole, oh look how cool I am, look how mysterious I am. But it is a movie, I suppose. Admittedly, it is a pretty cool fight here as Wolf uses his wrist blades to go right through the Predalien's skull. The Predalien then gets him as well, and it kind of leads to a stalemate. As the chopper goes out, a jet flies back and the nuke's then dropped, which is exactly the same as a lot of those early Resident Evil games. The fight was going to last much longer though, and Wolf would have impaled the Predalien with its own inner jaw. They of course both die in the nuke, which was originally going to be different. The acid from the Predalien would have heavily wounded him, and his arm would have then been sliced off before he could complete the self-detonation device. I think this death here is a little bit better, but yeah, sadly, it kind of just takes most of the main characters out, including Morales, who's just blasted away. Originally, he was going to die after the gunshot, but yeah, they kept him alive in order to show this. And congratulations, you're still dead. Again, all the shots here look really like Resident Evil, and I can't help but think that it was on the creatives' minds. Predator, of course, also ended with them flying away in a helicopter looking at the blast, so maybe they were leaning more towards that, and I forgive them. We then see the aftermath of the helicopter crash, and the site looks as destroyed as the jungle at the end of Predator 1. Sort of like the opposite of that movie though, where they escaped in a chopper, but in this one they're crashing. Kelly then looks out, just like Dutch at the end of the first movie. Predator 2 also saw Mike looking disheveled as he met the OWF before they left in a chopper. Her daughter also asks if the monsters are gone, with his 2 being what Nuke called them in Aliens. Now, there was an alternate scene shot which showed the Special Forces team gunning down the survivors. Considering Stevens lied about the airlift, it does make sense. However, I think you kind of want at least something in the movie that's a bit more hopeful and doesn't make you think it was all for nothing. Because yeah, what a brutal ending that would have been. At least the dad, like in the mist, still lives. Lives with the knowledge that he killed everyone. We then see Stevens deliver the plasma shotgun to Ms. Yutani. She is of course one half of Whale and Yutani, and they tease that the tech will be used for things off-world. They've of course started bringing Yutani into the franchise more and more, with her descendant appearing in Alien Earth. Cut from the movie was also a sequence with the facility where xenomorphs and Yautja were being kept for study. It would have been shown after this final scene and possibly have set up a sequel. This scene, though in itself, made a lot of sense at the time, as the previous movie had Charles Bishop Wayland. So here we're getting the other person who'd eventually seize the corporation. Their rivalry was actually being built up to be something that was crucial to the original film's plot, but in the end it didn't get off the ground. In that movie they actually wanted Peter Weller to play Yutani, and we'd have seen 2 80s robot actors butting heads together, even though I'm sure Yutani sounds Japanese to me. Here though, Ms. Yutani is played by Francoise Yip, who actually reprised her role in 2018's The Predator. Sadly though, these scenes were cut from the movie, but there was going to be a post-credit scene that would set up the original Alien. It would have featured Ms. Yutani holding the pistol and then cutting to a spaceship with the Whale Yutani logo. It would then be implied that the plasma shotgun would kickstart a tech revolution and lead humanity to the stars. This jump cut was supposed to mimic the opening of 2001, where the bone transforms into the spaceship. This would have meant that AVP-3 would take place 100 years into the future and feature a crew heading toward the Xenomorph's homeworld. We then see a crew of Yautja trying to retrieve a king alien. This scene definitely made me sit up though at the time, mainly because it was the only well-lit one in the whole movie. Hey! In the end though, this teaser never really materialized, and this film was pretty much a requiem for the franchise, eh? AVP Requiem was widely panned by critics and fans, and the team of franchise was pushed to the wayside. The studio then decided to do a sort of reboot, and thus they went back to Ridley Scott. We of course all know how Prometheus turned out, and there is a breakdown of that movie on the channel now. Since then, Romulus director Fede Alvarez has expressed an interest in directing a movie with Dan Trachtenberg. Makes sense as well, as they're clearly bringing the franchise together, and we may even get Aliens vs Predator soon. But I doubt it, mate, just call it Aliens vs Predator Reboot. Hey? Overall though, it's a pretty bad movie, and I walked out of it wishing I didn't see it. Only joking. Yeah, I couldn't see shit. And that wraps up the breakdown. Please drop a like on the video and drop a comment with all your thoughts below. If you want to follow us on Instagram as well and keep up to date with what we're doing, then make sure you check us out at Heavy Spoilers. Did you know as well that members of the channel also get early access to videos, and if you click the join button you get at least one breakdown a week before anyone else. Costs just 99 cents a month, you get at least one breakdown a week, mate. Is that worth it to you? Is it enough to help fill the void before everyone dies? I don't know, mate, but that's the price it's at. And we appreciate it. But yeah, I'm already moving on to the next breakdown. You might have seen me scrolling away. I'm moving on to the next thing, mate. I'm glad this is behind me now. I'm going to go review a good movie, and I'll hopefully see you over there. If you want something else to watch, we've also got a breakdown on screen right now. So hopefully it's a better one that you really want to see, because I don't know how many people of you made it to this point in the video, but if you did, drop an F in the chat. With that out of the way, I've been your host, Paul. You've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.